All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 1. And it reads, "Do we begin again to commend ourselves, or need we, as some others, epistles of commendation to you, or letters of commendation from you? Ye are our epistle written in our hearts, known and read of all men. For as much as ye are manifestly declared to be the epistle of Hamashiach, ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living power, not in tables of stone, but in fleshly tables of the heart. And such trust have we through Hamashiach to powerward. Not that we are sufficient of ourselves to think anything as of ourselves, but our sufficiency is of the Most High, who also hath made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life." All right, and I want to go into a lesson through the Spirit, on the Spirit and the letter. All right, and I particularly want to deal with Acts, the 4th chapter, when the Pharisees made a statement about the apostles being unlearned and ignorant men. All right, and this was the power of Yahweh Shemel Shai that raised up these men, all right, to such great understanding, though they did not grow up with the letter of the law. All right. And when I say that, I mean that they did not grow up in the synagogue, so they knew the law, statutes, and commandments. All right. Like all Israelites, well, most Israelites in the land of Judea. All right. And there's a distinction. In this day and age, a lot of times we lose sight of the fact that everybody in the ancient world didn't have access to the scriptures the same way we have access to it now. All right. You had certain synagogues that may have had the book of Isaiah. You may have had some synagogues who had the letters or the book of Jeremiah. But the scriptures comprised in such a way in this day and age was non-existent in the ancient world. And when you understand that and take that into perspective, it sets the stage of what the conflict was when Yahweh Shai was on the earth. His battle with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the wicked ones of those sects, really dealt with the authority. All right. And the authority that Hamashiach came in was the authority of the Spirit. Whereas the Pharisees and the Sadducees had the authority of the scriptures. All right. They grew up in the synagogues. They were raised up to learn about the letter of the laws, to be doctors of the laws, to sit at the feet of certain renowned men concerning the scriptures and learn from them. And that's why in the marketplace they would say, "Rabbi, Rabbi." That's why they would give such renown to the Sadducees and Pharisees, because at that time, only a select few of our people had that much access to the scriptures. All right. And that's how the Lord showed his power. All right. Hamashiach didn't go to the synagogue and grab the scholars of the synagogue, the ones who were the bright students of their day in the synagogues. He went to the fishermen, all right, which would be compared to the modern day construction worker. These were men that were rough around the edges. All right. So without further ado, I just wanted to get that broad summary of the lesson that I want to go into. And then I want to grab some commentaries on Acts, the 4th chapter. All right. So let's start by going into Acts, the 4th chapter. And I'll start at verse 13. You know what? Let's get up. Let's go up. All right. So let's start at Acts 4 and 1. And as they spake unto the people, the priest and the captain of the temple and the Sadducees came upon them, being grieved that they taught the people and preached through Yahushua the resurrection from the dead. And why were they grieved? Because they had the authority. All right. These were in modern day, right? Let's say you have some jakes that have went to an Ivy League school. So everybody looks at these individuals as if they know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. All right. Because they have grown up in institutions. Whereas the common of our nation in the ancient world did not have that much access to the scriptures, to the prophecies, to different things. Our nation had access to the law, of course. But the deep things of the scriptures were not revealed and accessible to the common Israelite in the ancient world. The time that we're living in now is unprecedented concerning how much access we have to the scriptures compared to the ancient world. And that's why there was a huge controversy between the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and Hamashiach, because he didn't go through their way. Not only did he not go through their way, he told them that he was the way. All right, continuing on. As a matter of fact, let me grab this really quick. All right. All right, so I just want to go to it really quick. This is Mark. I'll just grab this one. This is Mark 1 and 21. All right. And it reads, and they went into Capernaum. Straightway on the Sabbath day, he entered into the synagogue and taught. And they were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one that had authority, and not as the scribes. And there was in their synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, saying, let us alone. What have we to do with thee, thou Yahushua of Nazareth? Art thou come to destroy us? I know thee who thou art, the Holy One of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. All right, and the point that I wanted to focus on is verse 21 and 22. All right, because when Hamashiach came, he didn't talk or teach in a way of reciting the scriptures. He taught in a way of having authority, because he is the word. Whereas you had the Sadducees and the Pharisees who had pretty much unlimited access to the scriptures. So they developed a certain understanding from being acquainted with the scriptures. But when Hamashiach came on the planet, all right, when he walked the earth as Hamashiach, his understanding trumped all of the schooling and the institution that our nation had at the time that the Sadducees and the Pharisees had authority over. All right. Hamashiach mentioned they sit in Moses' seat. These were the gates, for instance. All right. In Jeremiah, when it says the gates thereof languish, going into the leadership. All right. The Sadducees and the Pharisees were, in essence, a leadership, but they were also the learned men of the nation of Israel. Now, I want to grab one more. All right. So this is Matthew 21 and 23. And it reads, and when he was come into the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came unto him as he was teaching, and said, by what authority doest thou these things? And who gave thee this authority? And Yahushua answered and said unto them, I also will ask you one thing, which if ye tell me, I in like wise will tell you by what authority I do these things. The baptism of John, whence was it, from heaven or of men? And they reasoned with themselves, saying, if we shall say, from heaven, he will say unto us, why did ye not then believe him? But if we shall say of men, we fear the people, for all hold John as a prophet. And then answered Yahushua and said, we cannot and they answered, Yahushua. So they answered Yahushua and said, we cannot tell. And he said unto them, neither tell I you by what authority I do these things. All right. And this is very important. All right. Because at that time, all right, the chief priests, the elders, all right, these men who at that time had the authority, all right, of the scriptures, recognized that the Spirit that was in Hamashiach had authority over them, man, whether they could call it that way or not. And this is the separation between the spirit and the letter. And what you have now that's going down even in our day, all right, is Israelites who may have a understanding of the letter, but it's not accompanied with the spirit. All right. And Hamashiach's ministry was accompanied with the spirit. That's why he didn't need learned men of the synagogues, because it was the spirit. And this in itself was a display of the power of Yahweh Shema Shai, that he didn't need learned men to put the spirit on them to proclaim the doctrine and confound those who had learned. All right. So with that being said, I had another precept in mind, but you know what? Let's go. All right. So this is John 11 and 47. And it reads, "Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, What do we? For this man doeth many miracles." So not only did the Lord cut them in the doctrine on many occasions, but he actually had works contrary to what one body, formerly known as one body in Yahweh Shai, saying that the Lord didn't do any miracles. This is a key component of the Lord's ministry. At one point he said, if you don't believe me, believe the works that I do. All right. How could those works be symbolic if the Lord was saying, if you can't believe me, then believe the works that I'm doing? Come on, that's a cut. All right, continuing, verse 48, "If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation." All right, now this is very important before I go back into Acts, the 4th chapter, because this is the underlying motivation of the wicked scribes and Pharisees. They had authority over the vineyard, even though the son is the inheritor of the vineyard. And when the son was on the earth, the wicked scribes and Pharisees did not want to give up that place of authority, if you will. And again, you have to understand the context of that time. Most of our people, the common Israelite during the time of the Romans, did not have access to the scriptures the same way we have access. A lot of things that were learned through word of mouth, through oral tradition, based on how much the men of a certain Israelite family knew. There's a small portion of Israelites during the time of the Romans that were actually learned men. This is what gave the Pharisees and the Sadducees their authority. They were learned men. All right, so continuing, I want to go ahead and jump into Acts 4, and we're going to get into it. So I want to continue at verse 3. "And they laid hands on them and put them in hold until the next day, for it was now eventide. Howbeit many of them which heard the word believed, and the number of the men was about 5,000. And it came to pass on the morrow that their rulers and elders and scribes, and Annas the high priest, and Caiaphas and John and Alexander, and as many as were of the kindred of the high priest, were gathered together at Jerusalem. And when they had set them in the midst, they asked, By what power or by what name have ye done this? Then Peter, filled with the Holy Spirit, said unto them, Ye rulers of the people and elders of Israel, if we this day be examined of the good deed done to the impotent man, by what means he is made whole, be it known unto you all and to all the people of Israel, that by the name of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach of Nazareth, whom ye crucified, whom the Most High raised from the dead, even by him doth this man stand here before you whole. This is the stone which was set at naught of you builders, which is become the head of the corner. Neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, They marveled, and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Yahweh Shai. All right, understand this is very important. All right, and it goes into 1 Corinthians, the first chapter as well, because the Lord didn't choose the wise of that world or this world. All right, he chose the lowly. He chose what will be perceived as foolish. And that's why even now, the way the message is presented, beginning with our elders and apostles, all right, our apostles and elders, and brethren who teach the like-minded doctrine, the presentation is unfiltered. All right, it's not world friendly. It's not catered to be eloquent. It's not catered to be enticing. All right, it's raw. It's unfiltered. It's uncut. All right, that's why they said they perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men. They were common men, and in the ancient world, the common Israelite wasn't a learned man, meaning they didn't have how should I say this? They didn't have a deep knowledge of the scriptures concerning prophecies and different things of the scriptures, because we didn't have access like that to the scriptures. All right. Now, continuing, I want to stop here really quick, and I want to deal with unlearned and ignorant. All right. So we're going to get the Greek words for unlearned and ignorant. All right, so the Greek word for unlearned is
Strong's G62, agrammatos. Agrammatos.
And it says illiterate, unlearned. It says unlettered, in example, illiterate, unlearned. All right, it says illiterate without learning. In example, unversed in the learning of the Jewish schools. So this is a part of the expression of the power of the Heavenly Father and the separation of the Spirit in the letter. All right. This is a time where the Sadducees and the Pharisees had command over the letter, but they didn't have command over the Spirit. And that's why they couldn't help but follow Yahweh Shai around and ask him questions and get confounded and get cut, because in their mind, they already had it. And then the Son, the only begotten Son, came to make his presence known, and he was rejected as prophecy said he would be. As a matter of fact, let's get that. All right, let's go to Psalms 118. All right, so this is Psalms 118, and I'm going to jump down to verse 22, and it reads, "The stone which the builders refused is become the headstone of the corner. This is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes." All right. Now let's go back to Acts 4 and 13. And I want to get the Greek word for ignorant. All right. So the Greek word for ignorant is this. Salakia.
Strong's G2399, idiotes. Idiotes.
All right, and I want to use verse or number 4 of biblical usage. All right, and it says in the New Testament, an unlearned, illiterate man as opposed to the learned and educated, one who is unskilled in any art. All right. Now, this is very important because this shows you the power of the Heavenly Father. All right. So I want to go into the commentary of unlearned and ignorant. All right. And we're going to use David Guzik's commentary, and then I have another commentary. All right. So verse 13. I'm just going to skip down. All right. And I'm going to deal with. Here we are. All right. So this is dealing with verse 13. All right. And it says they were uneducated and untrained men. It says, in a sense, we should probably disagree with the opinion of the Jewish leaders judging Peter and John. Certainly, they were uneducated in one sense. They, like Yahushai, had no formal rabbinic education according to the customs and standards of that time. Yet they were educated in two more important ways. They knew the scriptures, and they had been with Yahushai. All right. Now this is beautiful. All right. I'm going to continue. The greater importance of these two things, more important than formal education, has been proven in the lives of Yahweh Shai's servants again and again. It has been proven true through such servants of Yahweh Shai. Now, we're not going to deal with this Christian madness, but I want to jump down to this right here, number 3. It says, men are too anxious to be ranked with scholars, and so when error, however deadly, wears the glittering serpent skin of scholarship, it insinuates itself into the very chair of the teacher and the pulpit of the preacher, and no one seems to dare to smite it with a bold blow. All right, now, I'm not going to deal with that, but it says men are too anxious to be ranked with scholars. All right, and that deals with the whole authority that the Sadducees and the Pharisees had at that time. They were considered scholars. They were considered educated men. And to see them confounded by men who by trade were fishermen, all right, is why this was so shocking. All right, and a lot of times we lose sight of the context of what was going on during the time of Acts. Our people didn't have the same access to the scriptures. So they're witnessing unlearned men by trade, all right, who came up with Yahushai, who was not educated in the formal sense of Israelite scholarship concerning the scriptures. Yet his doctrine, they were amazed and astonished at his doctrine, his command over the scriptures, his command over the word, his ability to speak with authority, because he was the word. And this shows you the power of Yahweh Shai. Now, I want to go to another commentary that I found very enlightening. All right. And this is John Gill's exposition of the Bible. All right. And it's Acts 4:13. All right. Now it says, now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John. All right. And it says, with what courage and intrepidity they stood before them, the presence of mind they had, and the freedom of speech they used, as the word properly signifies. They observed their elocution, the justness of their diction, the propriety of their language, and the strength and nervousness of their reasoning, as well as the great resolution, constancy, and firmness of mind, not being afraid to profess the name of Hamashiach, or to charge them with the murder of him, and that they seemed to be determined to abide by him, at all events, to assert him to be the true Messiah, though rejected by the Jewish builders, all right, quotations on Jewish, and that he was risen from the dead, and not only to ascribe unto him the miracle now wrought, but the salvation of men, and to declare that there was none in any other but him. The Syriac version renders it, when they heard the words of Simeon and John, which they spoke openly and freely without any reserve, they answered readily to the question that it was by the name of Yahushai of Nazareth that they had done this miracle. They dealt freely with the Jewish Sanhedrin and told them in so many words that they were the crucifiers of Hamashiach and the rejectors of that stone which the Most High had made the head of the corner, and that there was no salvation for them in any other. All right, it appears from hence that John spoke as well as Peter, though his words are not recorded. Now, let's deal. This is the point. And perceive that they were unlearned and ignorant men, not by what they now said, but by what they heard and understood of them before. They were informed that they were unlearned men, or who did not understand letters. Not but that they had learned their mother tongue and could read the scriptures, but they had not had a liberal education. They had not been brought up at the feet of any of the doctors in any of the schools and universities of the Jews. They were not trained up in and conversant with the nice distinctions, subtle argumentations, and decisions of the learned doctors, and the interpretation of the law of Moses. So you had men who were raised up from their youth to look at the interpretation of the laws. How is this law to be interpreted under this current captivity? Those were the conversations that they were privy to. And they spent years, all right? Gamaliel comes to mind. He is a doctor of the law, man. These were learned men. They were in these institutions learning our history, learning how the laws of Moses is to be executed under this captivity and how to deal. All right. Whereas the apostles did not come from that background. All right. And that's why they perceived that they were with Yahushua, because they understood that Yahushua's arguments were arguments of learned men when he dealt with the idea of the king, the son of David. And they asked him no more questions at all. These are things through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai that the Lord shows his power. Where those who believe that they have command over the letter, all right, are trumped by the spirit. All right, now let's continue. All right, it says, in the interpretation of the laws of Moses and the traditions of the elders, and understood that they were also ignorant men, idiots, all right, quotation that says idiots, or private men, for men might be unlearned and yet not be such. It seems the high priests themselves were sometimes unlearned men, hence on the Day of Atonement. Now I'm going to skip down. All right. I'm going to skip down to this. All right. And it says, I'm going to start around this bold, they marveled area. All right. And it says, let's see. Yep, here we go. They were mean and abject, poor fishermen, men of no name and figure, that were in no office and exalted station of life, nor versed in Jewish learning, but common private men, so that they marveled. The Sanhedrin were astonished to hear them talk with so much fluency and pertinence, and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Yahushua. Looking wistfully upon them, they knew them again and remembered that they were persons that were the disciples of Yahushua, and whom they had seen in company with him, not in the high priest's palace, when Yahushua was arraigned, examined, and condemned there, though Peter and some think John was there at the time, yet not to be observed and taken notice of by the Sanhedrin. All right, but in the temple where Yahushua taught, and where the chief priests, scribes, and elders came and disputed with him about his authority and caviled at him. All right. And the point being is that they perceive that, man, this shows you the power of Yahweh Shemel Shai, man. And how that translates into our time now is you have a lot of our people who are swayed by Israelites who have the ability to show forth a extensive understanding of the letter. All right. But the spirit isn't the same. All right. Meaning you can have a command over the letter. You can have the ability to reiterate or recite the letter, to go into the history of things. But there's a particular spirit that comes with the tabernacle of the house of David. All right. There's a particular spirit that comes with the order of Melchizedek, beginning with Hamashiach. All right. That's why they perceive that they were with Yahushua when they saw how well they were able to teach in the spirit, though being unlearned and ignorant men. And the same thing is being played out before our eyes. All right. In these last days. All right. And I'll end it with 1 Corinthians. All right. So this is 1 Corinthians chapter 1. And I'm going to jump down to verse 25. And it reads, because the foolishness of the Most High is wiser than men, and the weakness of the Most High is stronger than men. And that's why it's no coincidence that they call us the armpit of Israel, man. It's no coincidence. All right, that we're shunned by those of the circumcision. Because the message that is presented and the way that it's presented is raw and uncut. It's not world friendly, as it shouldn't be. All right. And Acts, the 4th chapter, is a great highlight of the example that the Lord has left us. that the way this truth is going to be presented and received, even by those of the circumcision, if they are not of the fold, they won't receive it. Because it's not of wise words of man's wisdom, but it's a frequency, it's a vibration, and it's a spirit that's being brought out. When you think about the prophets in the ancient world, these were not men of reputation. These were men who were often at odds with the majority of our people because the message that they bared through Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And a lot of times when we think about prophets, we only think about the major names. All right, Nathan. All right, Elijah, Elisha. All right, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. But there were many prophets that weren't recorded in the scriptures. All right, by name, I would say. And I want to get an example. All right, I believe it's in Ezekiel. Lord willing. You know what? Let me see. The Wadi Yahweh Shem Yahushai. This is 1 Kings 18. And I'll start at 1. And it came to pass after many days that the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, Go show thyself unto Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. And Elijah went to show himself unto Ahab. And there was a sore famine in Samaria. And Ahab called Obadiah, which was the governor of his house. Now Obadiah feared the Lord greatly. For it was so, when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord, that Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50 in a cave and fed them with bread and water. Now, this is just an example that I wanted to use to show you that there were many prophets, all right, throughout our history that aren't necessarily recorded by name. And what you notice in the spirit is that the prophets have been raised back up. All right. And now they are in conflict with those of the circumcision, because the message is being presented through the spirit and not the wise words of man's wisdom, not in a fashion of the doctorates of the law. All right. Because the Lord's apostles, all right, weren't doctors of the law. They were men that were common, unlearned and ignorant men. It wasn't until really Paul came in, who was actually a learned man, all right, that the Lord called a Pharisee, a learned man, who sat at the foot of Gamaliel and learned of the scriptures and the deep understanding and the interpretation of the laws. But the apostles were unlearned men, but they carried and they bared the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. The same thing is happening now. Now, there are sincere brethren amongst all of these camps that we believe are amongst these camps, but through the spirit, we also believe that they will come out of that madness. All right, as we get into that time of the Lord's doors of mercy closing. But through the spirit, you can recognize right now, all right, that separation that the Lord is creating. All right. And it's a separation of where his spirit is dwelling, where the tabernacle of David is abiding, where the house of David is being raised up at, where the breaches are being closed at, where are those men that Yahushua said he will raise up in the last days. And as Elder Yahshua said, you have to ask yourself, man, these are the questions for people who are straddling the fence. These are the questions you have to ask yourself. Because we're coming into a time where it's not going to be about great debates in the marketplace or great debates on the stage of YouTube. It's going to be the performance and the demonstration of the words that the Lord has warned us through. All right. So, matter of fact, let's go back to 1 Corinthians and then I'll close it out. All right. So this is 1 Corinthians 1 and verse 26. And it reads, For ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. But the Most High hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And he did that, man. He's doing it. He's doing it again. Some of us talk with a accent. All right. Some of us stutter like myself. All right. Some of us do certain things that may not look eloquent to a carnal mind or a carnal man, a natural man. But if you can receive it, this is where the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is dwelling. Unto the pure, all things are pure. If you can receive it. And if not, where and who? All right, beginning with the apostles on down, their measure has not been self-willed. Neither have they sought the preeminence. This was the portion that was given unto them, and experience is the greatest catalyst or proof of that. Continuing on, all right, it says, verse 27. No, I'm going to start at 26. For ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. But the Most High hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And the Most High hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. All right, you had Sakari, what was that, last month? Talk about the apostles being jealous of numbers, of their views, of their platform. When this is truly about the spirit, the Lord is actually going to do these things. This is not a show of ego. This is not we have not been given this word to boast in glory and wisdom, to make ourselves of some renown through our ability to debate. The Lord is actually going to perform these words. And that's why the spirit of urgency is different with the other camps compared to the brothers beginning with the apostles on down, because this is about to play out. You're not going to see a lot of debates between Vocab Malones and Israel. This is not how it's going to play out forever. This was a temporary situation for the elect to be sealed. And as the scriptures say, it's going to go from faith to faith, glory to glory. And whether you like it or not, whether you can receive it or not, our job is to warn you. Beginning with our apostles on down. And I wanted to do this lesson to point out very beautiful examples of the Lord showing the difference between the spirit and those who had the ability to be learned in the letter. There's a difference. All right. Continuing on, verse 28, and base things of the world and things which are despised hath the Most High chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are, that no flesh should glory in his presence. And this is a display of the Lord's power, that he's taken men from all walks of life, not men that have been mighty and renowned in this world, but men that are rough around the edges, so that those who appreciate the message and not its presentation or how it's packaged. As in the days of old, during the time of Acts, the same thing is playing out now. And you have a lot of Israelites who are carnal in nature. In Ezekiel, it says they have the skin and the flesh upon them, but they did not have the breath. And that's why they flock to the sensationalism of these other camps instead of the message. And this is not of any man to boast, but this is just true. Humbly speaking, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai, if not where. We're too close to the end for these things to not be clear. And if they're not clear to you, then you have to reevaluate. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.